The morning at Starbridge Academy began like any other. Students moved through the halls, talking and laughing, carrying their datapads and bags. The classrooms glowed with soft lights, and the windows showed a clear blue sky. Everything looked normal, calm, and peaceful. But inside classroom 3B, Teacher Lyra felt something strange in the air. She could not explain it, but she felt today would be different. She stood at her desk, checking the attendance sheet on her screen. Most names were familiar. Human students, a few small alien species, and even one tall insectoid boy who always bumped his head on the doorframe. But then she saw something new, something added during the night. The name was written in glowing letters, as if it came from a royal system. Hearken, Dragonkin Juvenile, she read softly. Her heart jumped a little. Dragonkin did not attend normal schools. They lived far away in the mountains and rarely visited other species. They were powerful, ancient, and proud. She wondered if this was a mistake. Maybe the system glitched. Maybe someone played a joke. But the name stayed there. When the student sat down, Lyra cleared her throat. We have a new student today, she said. Please welcome. The door opened before she finished. A soft thump, then another. The students turned. And there, stepping inside the room, was a small dragon cub. He was no bigger than a large dog, but he had silver scales that shine like moonlight. His wings folded neatly on his back, and his eyes glowed bright gold. Each step he took carried a strange, quiet power, as if he knew he did not belong here but did not care. The whole class froze. The insectoid boy's antennae bent downward in fear. A girl from the back squeaked and hid behind her desk. Even Teacher Lyra felt her breath stop. But the dragon cub said nothing. He looked around the room calmly, scanning each student. Then, without a sound, he walked past all the desks and stopped beside a human girl, sitting near the windows. Her name was Mira. Mira smiled gently, as if she had been waiting for him. Hearken, she whispered. The dragon cub hummed softly, a warm, musical sound. Then he sat down next to her desk, curling his tail around his feet. The class watched in total silence. Teacher Lyra found her voice again. Welcome, Hearken, she said, trying to sound brave. You may sit where you feel comfortable. But he was already seated. Mira did not look surprised. She simply reached out and placed her hand on the cub's head. Hearken closed his eyes, clearly enjoying the gentle touch. The rest of the class stared, confused and amazed. Mira had only been at the academy for a few months. She was quiet, calm, and never caused trouble. No one expected her to know a dragon, much less have one sit next to her, as if he belonged there. Lyra tried to continue the lesson, but every few minutes she saw students glancing at Hearken. The cub didn't disturb anyone. He did not roar or flap his wings or break anything. He just stayed beside Mira, watching everything with his golden eyes. When the class took out their datapads, Hearken leaned in closer to Myra's desk, as if checking her screen. Mira whispered something to him, and the cub let out a small puff of warm air. The warm air blew Myra's hair softly, and she laughed a little. The students around them jumped when they heard the sound. During break time, a few brave students walked closer. Does he bite? One boy asked, keeping his distance. Mira shook her head. No, he's gentle. Hearken blinked slowly, showing no anger or threat. Still, the other students moved carefully, unsure of what a dragon cub might do. Teacher Lyra watched them from her desk, her hands tight around her mug. She tried to think of a reason for the cub to choose this school, this classroom, this seat next to Mira. Dragons were mysterious. They followed their own traditions and rules, and nobody understood them completely. Why her? Lyra whispered to herself. Why Mira? When the bell rang again, the students returned to their seats. Hearken followed Mira back to hers. The cub sat tall, as if guarding her. Teacher Lyra tried to ignore the feeling growing in her chest. Something important was happening. Something big. Something she did not understand yet. The lesson continued, but the teacher's thoughts kept drifting. Dragons never joined other species, especially not children, and they never chose a human child to sit beside. She pretended everything was normal. She taught the next chapter. She answered questions. She even smiled once. But inside her heart, she felt a small fear. Because the way the dragon cub sat beside the human girl was not random. It looked like protection. It looked like loyalty. It looked like a bond. And dragons never form bonds without a reason. Teacher Lyra nodded slowly as she ended the lesson. She tried to act calm, but deep down, she was scared. Something had begun in her classroom. Something she could not control. And she knew whatever it was, it would change everything. The next morning, Teacher Lyra walked into classroom 3B with a heavy feeling in her chest. She told herself to stay calm, to act normal, to teach like always. But her hands shook when she placed her data pad on the desk. She kept imagining the silver scale cub sitting beside Mira again. She wondered if yesterday had been a mistake or some kind of dream. But when the students entered, she saw that it was not a dream. Harkin padded into the room beside Mira, matching her steps as if they had walked together for years. His tail moved in slow, careful motions, and his wings rested neatly against his back. He looked calm, but there was a quiet strength around him, like a shield made of silence. Mira sat at her desk, and Harkin curled beside her again. The rest of the class stared, but with less fear than yesterday. Some were curious. Some whispered to each other. A few watched with wide eyes, still unsure if the cub might suddenly breathe fire. Teacher Lyra cleared her throat. "Good morning, everyone." She tried not to look at Mira and Harkin, but her eyes kept drifting toward them. The lesson began, but the class had trouble focusing. Every time Mira turned a page, Harkin shifted. When she wrote something, he peeked over her shoulder. When she dropped her pencil, he picked it up with his claw and placed it gently on her desk. It was strange, almost too gentle for a dragon cub known for sharp teeth and sharp instincts. During the break, Lyra finally approached them. She kept her distance, knowing that dragons did not like being crowded. "Mira," she said softly, "may I speak with you for a moment?" Mira nodded, and Harkin stood up too, ready to follow her. "You can stay," Lyra said, even though her voice trembled a little. The cub blinked and sat again. Lyra took a slow breath. "How long have you known him?" Mira looked at Harkin with a warm smile. "Since I was very small." "That long?" Lyra asked, surprised. "But dragons don't live near human towns." "They don't," Mira whispered. "But Harkin found me. Or maybe I found him." Lyra waited for more, but Mira didn't explain further. The teacher lowered her voice. "Why does he stay with you?" Mira hesitated. For a moment, her eyes seemed far away, like she was remembering something older than her age. "Because we share something," she said. "A bond." "A bond?" Lyra repeated. Mira nodded. "He says it is older than the school, older than the mountains, older than both our peoples." Teacher Lyra's breath caught. "He told you?" "Not in words." Mira said gently, "Dragons speak in feelings. In memories." Harkin leaned against Myra's leg, letting out a soft sound like a gentle hum. The teacher felt a chill. Dragons rarely shared memories with anyone. It was a sacred thing among their kind. Only family or soul-bonded partners received that honor. "You must be special to him," Lyra whispered. Mira looked down. "He saved me once. I don't remember clearly, but I know he was there." Harkin stared at Mira with golden eyes full of something deep and ancient. It wasn't just friendship. It wasn't just loyalty. It was something older, something powerful that Lyra could barely understand. The next class began. Lyra tried to teach math, but the strange connection between Mira and Harkin kept pulling her attention. When Mira answered a question, Harkin made a proud sound. When she appeared confused, he nudged her arm gently. When she laughed, he chirped softly in happiness. No one in the room could deny the bond now. During lunch, some brave students approached again. "How do you understand him?" a small alien boy asked Mira curiously. Mira shrugged. "I just do." "Does he protect you?" Another asked. "Yes." "From what?" Mira looked down at her hands. "From the world, I think." Harkin lifted his head, watching everyone with calm, warning eyes. He did not growl. He did not show his teeth. But every student understood his message. If anyone tried to hurt Mira, he would not stay gentle. Later, during quiet reading time, Lyra noticed something unusual. Mira held her book open, but she wasn't reading. Her eyes were closed. Harkin rested his head on her knee. His eyes also closed. They were still, breathing softly, almost in the same rhythm. It looked like two hearts sharing the same beat. Lyra stepped closer, quietly. The dragon cub's scales glowed faintly, like soft silver light breathing in and out. Myra's calm face made her look older, wiser, as if she understood something hidden from everyone else. It was beautiful. It was frightening, because whatever this bond was, it was not something normal, not something taught in school, not something safe. It felt ancient. It felt chosen. And Teacher Lyra realized that the cub had not come to learn. He had come to protect Mira from something that had not yet arrived, something the school was not ready for. The next day began like the one before it, but there was a strange tension in the air. The halls of the school felt too quiet, as if everyone sensed something was coming. Teachers whispered. Students walked in nervous groups. Even the lights flickered, as if they felt the change. Mira entered the classroom with Harkin walking beside her, calm as always. His silver scales shimmered in the light, and his golden eyes scanned the room with the same protective watchfulness. But Mira noticed something different in him today. He moved closer to her. His tail stayed wrapped around her foot. And when someone opened a window too fast, he tensed, ready to strike. "Are you okay?" Mira whispered. Harkin made a soft, worried hum. Before she could ask more, a loud chime echoed to the entire school, deep, booming, and official. The school alarm for special visitors. Everyone froze. Teacher Lyra rushed to the center of the classroom. Everyone stay seated. No one moved. But her voice shook, and her eyes kept flicking toward the door. Moments later, the classroom door slid open, and two royal guards stepped inside. Their armor gleamed blue and silver, marked with the emblem of the Dragon Dominion. They were larger than any of the school staff, and even the air around them felt heavy with power. "Student Mira," the first guard announced, "you are requested by the Royal Council." Myra's heart stopped. The students gasped. Even Teacher Lyra looked pale. "Requested? Now, she is only a child. This is not a request that could be delayed," the second guard said sternly. Harkin rose instantly, wings half open, his small body ready to protect Mira. His eyes flashed bright gold, and a low rumble rolled to the classroom floor. The guards noticed him and stepped back. "What is a royal cub doing here?" One guard whispered. "He should be in the palace nursery," the other murmured. Teacher Lyra stepped forward, trying to speak calmly. "Students are learning. Maybe this can wait." "No!" The first guard cut her off. "The council demands a girl now. Bring her." Harkin growled softly. Mira grabbed his neck. "No, you're not taking me without him." The guards exchanged looks. "The cub may come," one said reluctantly, "but the council will handle him." Harkin hissed at the word handle. Mira swallowed hard. She knew this was not simple. Dragons did not summon humans. They barely spoke to humans at all. For them to ask for her, something was wrong. She followed the guards out of the classroom, with Harkin glued to her side. Students pressed themselves against the walls, watching with wide, frightened eyes. Some whispered, "Why her? Is she in trouble? Why is the cub protecting her?" Mira didn't know the answers. They stepped outside the school. A royal sky carriage waited for them, sleek, dark, and marked with symbols of high authority. As they approached, Harkin's scales lifted slightly, reacting to the magic woven into the carriage walls. "It's safe," Mira whispered, touching his head. He didn't believe it, but he entered anyway, curling his tail protectively around her waist as the door closed. The carriage rose into the sky. Mira pressed her face to the window as the city shrank beneath them. The tall spires, the glowing streets, the floating gardens, everything looked smaller and smaller until only clouds remained. Harkin rested his head on her lap, but she felt his tension. His wings twitched. His tail tip flicked. He kept glancing at the guards. "Mira," he whispered softly in her mind, a tiny flicker of thought and feeling. She gasped, It wasn't a word exactly, but it was a message. He was scared. She placed her hand on his warm scales. "It's okay," she whispered, even though she didn't know if it was. The carriage finally reached the royal spire, a towering building that pierced the clouds. The doors opened, and the guards let them inside. Gold pillars, glowing floors, massive windows showing the whole kingdom. Everything felt too big, too bright, too important. They reached the council chamber. 7 dragons stood there, not cubs, but massive adults with wings that touched the ceiling and eyes that burned like ancient stars. Their scales glowed in patterns of gold, violet, blue, and emerald. Mira felt tiny. Harkin pressed against her leg, trembling slightly. One of the dragons lowered its head, its voice echoing like thunder. "Human child," it said, "we have sensed something impossible, something hidden." Myra's breath caught. "You have formed a bond with the young heir," the dragon continued. Whispers rippled through the chamber. "The heir," Mira whispered. Harkin made a soft, almost guilty sound. Another dragon stepped forward. "A royal bond is sacred. No human has ever been part of one." Mira felt her heart beating too fast. I didn't know." The dragon studied her with ancient, sharp eyes. "You and the cub," the council leader said, "share a bond older than our kingdoms. We must decide what to do with you." Mira grabbed Harkin tightly. He growled at the council, defending her. And in that moment, every dragon in the room leaned back in shock. The cub was not just bonded. He was willing to fight his own royalty for her. The room trembled. The future trembled. And Mira realized the summons was not about punishment. It was about the danger her bond represented. The chamber stayed silent for a long moment after Harkin growled at the council. His small body trembled, but his wings were open, glowing faintly with gold light. The adult dragons watched him with shock, confusion, and even a little fear. A cub was never supposed to challenge the council. Finally, the council leader lowered her huge head and spoke in a deep, calm voice. "If the bond between you two is real, then it must be tested." Mira felt her heart drop. A test? What kind of test? She reached down and held Harkin close. He pressed against her hand, trying to stay brave. "What test?" Mira asked. Try not to sound scared. One of the elder dragons stepped forward. His scales were dark emerald, and his eyes glowed as if he carried many years of memory. "A test of loyalty," he said. "The cub must choose." Another dragon added, "He must show who he will listen to and who he will protect." Myra's breath caught. Choose between who? The answer came slowly, heavy like a stone. "Between you," the council leader said, "and us, his own kind." Harkin immediately hissed and spread his wings wider, as if he already knew his choice. But the dragons didn't seem impressed. They flicked their tails and lowered their powerful heads. "A cub's reaction is not enough," an elder said. "We need proof." 2 royal guards stepped forward and motioned Mira toward a separate platform. Harkin growled loudly, refusing to let her go. But Mira touched his head gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'll be right here." He didn't like it, but he followed her. The guards led Mira to a glowing circle made of gold light. She stood inside it, and the air hummed softly. Another circle lit up across the chamber, this one marked for dragons. Harkin looked from one circle to the other, confused and restless. The council leader raised her wings slightly. "The test is simple. You will both be shown danger. The cub will feel your fear. He will feel ours. Then he must choose who to help." Myra's eyes widened. This was not a small test. This was serious. "Will it hurt him?" she asked. "No," the leader replied, "but it will shape his destiny." The glowing light around Mira rose like thin walls. She could still see through them, but the barrier made her feel small and alone. Harkin paced outside the circles, his claws clicking nervously against the floor. Then the test began. A cold wind passed through the chamber. Mira felt something touch her mind, an illusion, soft but frightening. The floor below her shimmered, turning into a deep cliff. It looked real, too real. She stepped back instinctively. Harkin felt her fear. He darted toward her, but a gentle magical force stopped him. like invisible hands holding him in place. Mira shook her head. "No, hearken, stay calm." He whined, confused and scared for her. Across from them, the dragons created a second illusion, one of the great beasts roaring at the elders. Sparks flew. Shadows rose. The illusion made it look like the dragons were under attack, and the air filled with the scent of smoke. Now Harkin felt two emotions at once, Myra's fear and the council's danger. He froze, trembling. Mira pressed her hand to the barrier. "Harkin, listen to me. I'm okay. You're okay. Just breathe." The cub's golden eyes flicked to her. He tried to move toward the council's side, then back toward her, confused. The magic of the test pulled at him, twisting his instincts. The elder dragon's voice echoed. Let him choose. Mira could see that Harkin was shaking. He didn't want to fail her. He didn't want to fail his own kind. He didn't understand why he had to choose at all. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. "Harkin," she said softly, "it's okay if you choose them. They're your family, too." The dragons watched her closely, surprised. Harkin's head snapped toward her circle. Something in her voice reached him deeper than fear or magic. He stepped forward, wings trembling. The illusion on the dragon's side grew louder, fiercer, trying to pull him, but his steps became stronger. 1, 2, 3. Then he ran, straight toward Mira. The moment he touched the barrier, the light shattered like glass. The illusions vanished. The chamber returned to normal. The dragons gasped. The council leader lowered her head. "He chose a human child," she said softly, almost in disbelief, "even when allowed to choose us." Another dragon whispered, "Impossible." Harkin climbed into Myra's arms and pressed his head to her chest, purring loudly with relief. She hugged him tightly, her eyes filled with tears. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's over." But the council was not finished. The emerald-scaled elder studied them with deep, ancient eyes. "A bond like this has not been seen in thousands of years," he said. "It will change many things." Mira swallowed nervously. "Is that good or bad?" The leader spread her massive wings. "That," she said, "is what we must decide next." The real test had only just begun. The chamber stayed strangely quiet after the test of loyalty ended. The elders did not roar, did not argue, and did not shout at Mira or Harkin. They simply stared, as if they were seeing something ancient rise again in front of them. Harkin stayed close to Mira, his small wings wrapped around her arm. He trembled from the stress of the test, but he did not let go. Mira gently rubbed his head, trying to calm him. After a long moment, the council leader finally spoke. "The cub has chosen," she said softly, "and the choice was made with his heart, not with fear." Some dragons nodded slowly. Others looked troubled. A few whispered to each other, unsure what this meant, but none dared to challenge what they had witnessed. The emerald-scaled elder stepped forward. "A bond like theirs is rare," he said. "If we guide it well, it could bring something new to our world." Mira felt her chest tighten. She looked around the chamber, unsure if something new was something good or something dangerous. Then the leader lowered her massive head until her eyes met Myra's. "You human child," she said, "have shown kindness and courage toward one of our own. You protected him even when you thought it might turn his loyalty away from you. This shows strength." Mira blinked, surprised. She had never thought of herself as strong. She had just wanted Harkin to be safe. Harkin let out a small, proud chirp and lifted his head. The leader continued, "And you, young Harkin, have shown what it means to choose with freedom. You did not obey fear or instinct. You chose based on trust." The cub purred loudly, glowing with soft golden light. The council whispered to one another again, but the tone was different now. They sounded less afraid and more thoughtful. Finally, the leader lifted her head high. "We will honor this bond," she said, "but both of you must learn, and so must we." Mira let out a quiet breath she didn't know she was holding. Harkin leaned against her, relieved. The elder dragons talked for a long time. Some spoke of old stories, tales of ancient human-dragon friendships. Others wondered if this bond could help heal the long separation between humans and dragons. But one idea rose above all others. They needed a plan for the future. By the time Mira and Harkin were let out of the council chamber, the sun was already setting. The sky burned gold and purple, lighting the stone path leading back to the palace courtyard. Harkin walked proudly beside her, holding his head high even though he was still small. As they walked, Mira noticed dragons watching them from balconies, towers, and training grounds. Some looked curious. Some looked confused. A few bowed their heads politely as they passed. Mira whispered to Harkin, "I think they're starting to like you." Harkin puffed out his chest and made a happy clicking sound. When they reached the courtyard, the dragon queen herself waited for them. Her wings formed a shining arch behind her, glowing in the soft evening light. "Mira," the queen said gently, "you showed great courage today." Mira bowed her head. "I just didn't want him to be hurt." "And that," the queen replied, "is why he chose you." The queen looked down at Harkin. "You are still young, but your heart is strong. One day you may lead dragons, and you will not lead alone." Harkin tilted his head. Mira blinked. "Not alone?" she asked. The queen smiled, revealing sharp but gentle teeth. "The council has agreed. A new program will begin. A shared training where young humans and young dragons learn together, grow together, and build trust." Myra's eyes widened. "Like a school? For both?" "Yes," the queen said. "You two will be the first pair." Harkin let out a tiny roar of excitement, hopping in a circle around Mira. His wings flapped wildly, and he nearly fell over his own tail. Mira laughed and caught him before he toppled. "Slow down, Harkin. You're going to make yourself dizzy." But she couldn't stop smiling either. The idea of humans and dragons learning side by side felt unreal, like something from the books she read back at home. A guard approached with a scroll and handed it to Mira. The queen nodded. "In this scroll," she said, "is a plan for the first human-dragon partnership. You two will lead it. Others will follow." Mira held the scroll tightly. It was heavy, not just with paper, but with meaning. For the first time, she felt the weight of responsibility and hope. The queen lowered her voice. "This bond between you two could change the future of both our peoples." Mira looked down at Harkin. He gazed back at her with bright golden eyes, full of trust and excitement. She knelt and whispered, "Are you ready?" Harkin pressed his forehead to hers and purred softly. Together, they stepped forward as the first pair in a new era, a future shared by humans and dragons, built on trust, loyalty, and the simple but powerful choice of a small dragon cub who had decided to stay by a human girl's side. It was not just their future. It was the beginning of everyone's. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important in.